How busy have you been since you got here?
Extremely busy. Yeah, I find out a lot of stuff a lot later than I used to. So I don't have time to inform myself about a lot of the things that are happening in the world and around the world. But it's more, you're just so driven. You want only one thing, and it's for your team to perform, get better, and you just constantly learn, adapt, improve, and it doesn't leave a lot of time for anything else.
Everyone says that it's much more difficult to be a manager than a player. So what's the brutal reality of being a player manager?
I don't know. Playing is kind of relaxing. You know, you do something you've been doing well for many years, and you just have to focus on just getting your body right, and the rest is it's a way for me to relax. When I'm on the pitch, I don't have anything to deal with. I don't have anything to do anymore in terms of tactics and everything. I can be a captain, a leader, like I've been all of my career. Everything throughout the week is also everything I wanted. I've always felt like I needed more than just train, shower, go home, rest. You know, I always needed more. And if it wasn't under the form of being a manager, it would have been under the form of doing something else. So that's, for me, it's a perfect situation.
Now, you've got your first win, which I'm sure is a great relief, but just how frustrating was it? Because you were doing everything in matches other than putting the ball in the net.
Yeah, I mean, we've virtually got, I can honestly say we've played 45 minutes, we've had 45 minutes where we really played below our level. 45 bad minutes so far, I think, in 6 games. Everything else was dominant, possession football, chances, crosses, very few chances conceded. But yeah, no results, and that was very frustrating. And then you go into the one game where it's like our version of the Clásico, and so the pressure doubles, and basically we made good use of that pressure. It finally got us to get to the business end of things and score goals and keep the clean sheet, which we've had 3 in 6 games, so we're okay. But yeah, the frustration has been in the fact that the boys and ourselves worked so hard and improved so much in such little time, and just never seemed to kind of get the rewards we deserve. But the fans have been unbelievable with us, just completely buying into it.
Was one of the, if you like, one of the reasons you didn't get a chance to say goodbye to the fans, because you were focusing on the treble with Manchester City, but at the same time, obviously, secretly and quietly, you were sorting your future out?
I mean, when you're in your last year of contract, especially at my age, you know, you 6 months before the end of your contract, you're free to go anywhere you want. So there's no way that this situation can be avoided in your head and in, you know, the people around you. So I try to do as I always do, just focus on playing football, getting in the team, trying to do well for my team. And I always knew that the ultimate reward would be to win trophies, because I know how much it's worth to win trophies. So although I had to think about it, or it was in the back of my mind, I knew that there was only one thing that mattered, which was to finish on a high with City, and everything else really just came into the background for me.
You did it absolutely professionally, and you finished on a high, as you said. But was the one moment you maybe had a wobble was after the Leicester game, when you looked around the stadium? You looked very emotional.
Yeah.
We tried to get it out of you afterwards, but you weren't giving us anything.
I know you always would, but listen, it was...
What were you thinking then?
The thing is, I was borderline, and I'm not an emotional kind of guy, but it was borderline emotional when I scored the goal. And probably because everybody jumped on me, nobody could see it. Because I thought, what if this is the goal, and what if we keep the clean sheet now till the end of the game, and that gives us the title? And kind of, it was playing all in my head at the time, and then I thought, okay, back to business. Just finish this game, do well, finish this game, be good for your team. And obviously, this game finishes the way it does, 1-0. My kids come on the pitch. It was also the last game of the season, so technically also my last game, bearing the testimonial, of course, but it was my last game for the club at home, and I already knew. So it was very emotional for that reason, but it's a time I never forget. City fans will never forget. It's how I would have wanted it to do, and actually having to not disclose it at that time was something that I found it right. It wasn't about me yet. It was about winning what we needed to win, and then after, there's always time for goodbyes.
Could you see you though? It was almost though you were looking around and thinking, fantastic times I've had with these fantastic people. Genuinely, I mean, I know it's easy to swat me away afterwards, but was it hard to keep the emotion in?
It was hard. Yeah, it was hard. I mean, it's not just, I'm looking around and I see this iconic stadium for me, you know, where I've experienced so many great times, and I see 57,000 people I'm genuinely grateful towards. And then next to me, my 11 teammates, of which, you know, I have a few players in specific like Kun Aguero and David Silva, who I went through everything with them. You know, I'm thinking we're still standing and doing this together. So, yeah, it was a night of emotions. And if you think of the build-up, I knew it before the game. So you go into this game knowing all these things can happen, and then it happens. That's why I'll always remain very humble in my life, because I think these kind of moments only happen because you stay humble and you stay driven and focused, and eventually somebody says, here you go, you get your reward.
You look like you've got goosebumps just thinking about it now, because it was such a special moment.
Well, I can tell you I haven't had the time to think about a lot of things right now, but then... yeah.
Is it possible to think about not just the trophies you won in incredible 11 years at Manchester City, but the transition of the club from what it was to what it's become?
Yeah, more so. I mean, I could have ended up at another club, and out of 4 league titles, you would have turned it into maybe 8, depending on which club you go to and how successful it is if you go into like an established institution, you know. But going through the transition with City and missing out on all these titles in the beginning years, but going through so much basically hardship as well in terms of expectations fail, but just still carrying on. And then at the end of it, looking back on what you've done, it's actually been better to do it this way. For me personally, for the affection I can then have towards the place. And you know I played a role in I was part of the people that helped to shape the culture of the club and probably the future of the club, and that means a lot. There's not many clubs where you can do something like this. Yeah, it was a special journey.
In many ways though, for you, lots of things changed at Manchester City, but what were the constants? What didn't change? I kind of became like, I was a monk by the end of it, right? So all these core values that I had before I was a monk, so when I just signed, I kind of transported them through the years. And by the end of it, I still think there's a strong identity of Manchester that remained through someone that actually never came from Manchester. And that's because I thought, look, not everything was bad when I arrived. We had to change players and a lot of things to become a winning team. But it was a great club with a fantastic history. And I think that's the thing I try to, especially even more towards the end, just keep sharing that. Someone gets a knock on the pitch, just get up, get on with it. You're in Manchester, you know, and it doesn't matter whether you're a beautiful £100 million player, because you're in Manchester, you're going to get up and get on with it, or you go and get treatment because you know you can't be 1 minute on the floor and then the other minute running on the pitch. You know, it's two things that are not compatible, and that's the side of Manchester that I just kept throughout, and I think the group was a little bit shaped as well in that way because of people like myself and
and I wasn't alone in this, of course. You know, there were a few of us that were still cherishing this.
I mean, that was probably drummed into you even more because you married a Manc as well. And in your words, you have a Manc children, not just a Manc, but a Blue as well. So you had the club's ethos drummed into you at work and at home.
Yeah, I mean, Carla and her family are massive Blues, and there's the off Red, who still gets in at Christmas. But you know, the key thing is, for some reason, I ended up being in a place where it was always meant to mean a lot more for me and the people around me than anywhere else. And God knows why. Then at that time as well, the owners came in, and there were such owners that give you time to build, and you know, just were the perfectly right type of owners for the club as well, to actually, you know, so many guys come in and say we're going to put money, we're going to be successful, never achieve it. And that ownership group came in and said, you know, we're going to build a plan, a vision, and 10 years later, can anyone doubt that there was a plan and a vision behind what we set out to do? So for all these things again to come together when I joined City, was on a completely different path at the beginning, think of, it doesn't make sense sometimes. It's a lot of things that came together that made it possible for me to have a fantastic career. And then you finish off with the Leicester moment, and you understand why I'm so grateful, and just nothing I experienced in those years I would change for anything.
Do you think you'll ever experience anything again like what is now commonly known as the Aguero moment?
I don't think that's... Look, never say never, but that doesn't seem likely to me. It was just, again, things coming together and it then happening. It's kind of crazy to think about. But I'll tell you what, in terms of emotions, putting so much work into a team during the entire week and seeing it come to life, it's as good. It's as close as it gets, really. When your team scores a goal, when you see a player do something that you told him or taught him to do all week, I'm still on the, you know, I'm still in the right end of this world. I really enjoy the adrenaline, the emotion, the passion I can still put into it every single day. And it's very simple, you know. If I work harder, my team gets better. If I push them more, you know, they will go further. And eventually, if I'm consistent with my vision, my plan, and the process, we will be successful and win games. And that side of things, very, very hard to replicate in other sectors, I think.
Often as well, the best plans don't always go as you'd laid them out.
Yeah.
And going back to the Aguero day, City did it in typical City fashion.
Yeah, you're not wrong. I mean, typical City fashion would have been to lose the game and to blow it. That's what typical City fashion meant in the days. You know, you go 2-0 up, you can win the league, or it was 1-0 up, but you can win the league on the last day of the season. You've done an incredible comeback on Man United, never seen before. And the last day of the last game of the season against QPR, who's playing for relegation, you blow it. That's what I associated with typical City back in the days. But now typical City is obviously defined by the Kun Aguero moment. You don't give up, and you know, you do comebacks and you win games. And you got the Aguero moment against QPR. You've got again Aguero 3 times against against Bayern Munich when we came back, and so on and so on. And, you know, you've got this race with Liverpool where at the end we edge it on 97 points, and we were 7 points behind them. And so that becomes now typical City, but that wasn't the meaning of that sentence back in the days.
Now, you're good friends with Kun Aguero.
Yeah.
Have you said to him, look, I'll be honest with you, yours is more well known, but my goal against Leicester was more important in the club's history?
No, it wasn't. His goal was more important. Yeah, mine looked better, which I never thought I'd have on him. But no, his goal was crucial. I mean, he did do his best to wait till that time, because he had the worst 90 minutes of his life, the worst 93 minutes of his career. And I would have had a word to say about this after the game if he didn't score that goal. But that's the beauty of his job. 1 second can always turn it around for him, and he did it at that time.
It's nice sitting, chatting here, reminiscing about your fabulous time in Manchester. So on that basis, how much are you looking forward to your testimonial and the people that you'll see there?
I just, so many old faces, and I want to see who's still in shape, who's not anymore. Because that's the key thing. A lot of them, I remember conversation in the dressing room, what are you going to do when you stop playing? So...
Who are you suspicious may have added a pound or two?
Right, Nigel de Jong is still playing, so I'll have to wait for another time with him. But I think he was going to go the other way with, belly and all this kind of stuff. Patrick Vieira has already surprised me. The leanest guy in the world... I don't even need to say anything, he's got a belly already. And so I'm kind of thinking, the people you think would go one way, they don't, and the people you think would go the other way, they don't. So I'm looking forward to see who's still in shape mainly, and then reminiscing, like you said, about the stories that we still remember from the dressing rooms.
There's a bit of spice on the other side as well, though. I mean, you can't confirm all the names until the day, because people have various commitments, they might have club jobs, etc. But I've seen names like Van Persie, the Neville brothers, Scholes.
Yeah. It's unfortunate that Leroy Sané is out with a knee injury, because I would have put him on Gary Neville. My goal was to put the fastest winger I can find on Gary Neville's side. But we'll review the team and see what we can. Unless he goes and hides at centre back, we'll see.
The other thing you got as well from your time in Manchester, as you said, and becoming a Manc, was an understanding of the community there, and that's always been very important to you. So, what are you aiming to do with the testimonial? No,
it's simple. My kids are Mancs. There's a massive issue of homelessness in the whole of Greater Manchester. The city has grown incredibly well and rapidly, and it's such a vibrant city. But it seems that we have left a lot of people behind on that journey, and it's just whether there's a way to affect this, to turn it around. I've always thought of how, because homelessness is a difficult issue to tackle. The first thing that you always think about is, should I go and give money to someone, and would that make his life better, or would I? And it's a lot more complex than this. So it was all about finding the right partners. And we were lucky because, to be fair to him, the mayor, Andy Burnham, has been very committed to solve the issue of homelessness, and we only had to follow, the institutions and say, okay, we will support you, and we will basically tag along and make sure that you can go even further than what you've done so far.
And as I understand, people that can't get along with you, they can donate, they can tech support too.
Yeah, I mean, it's massive anyway, by any means to get help and receive help, and just the solidarity of a whole group would help a lot. And, we need to look as well as what kind of environment we want our kids to grow up in. We talk about all these issues where, we also have issues that we can actually solve, that we can actually put to bed. This is one of them, doesn't have to be forever, and just a small commitment from a lot of people. I'm obviously committing more because I have to, but and because I want to. But just small commitment from a number of people will help us a lot.
As you said, you've been so busy. You've been head down. You've almost not been able to take in the news or anything that's going on around the world at the moment. You also say you're not particularly an emotional guy, but how do you think you'll feel once you put on that light blue kit one last time and go up the tunnel and come out to that crowd?
I don't know, probably shy. Yeah, honestly, like so many people there to kind of recognize something I've done for the club, humbled by it. I never, look, you know what, I've gone from injury to injury to injury, and it's always been a struggle back and a struggle back. And I've never been the guy that starts off and being the most talented, most gifted, or I'm not the guy that gets picked first based on talent. I've always had to work so hard for everything I've had. I had a good toolbox to start with, but But to have lived such a journey at City, through all these kind of stuff that were actually in the way of being the player that I could be, you know, I'm humbled by it. I'm proud of myself, but I'm incredibly grateful that I've even been able to go this far with what I've had to face throughout my career. It's a competitive club, you know, City. It's not like you can sit down on your hands for a year and then just wait for what happens. Every transfer window, every 6 months, you know, you're competing with the rest of the world. You know, anyone that's better in the world that they can get, they have the responsibility to get to improve the team. And so nobody gives you a gift of staying at City for 11 years. You have to earn it for 11 years. And doing this whilst being impeded by your body, my mother would have been proud of me.